The bright lights of Hollywood shined down on the stage as the music began to swell, signaling the start of another exciting episode. From Hollywood, it is the Newlyweds game. The announcer's voice boomed across the studio, introducing the stars of the day. And here are today our newlyweds. First to walk out were couple number 1, married for 4.5 months, Christy and Brian Hunter Muller. They were followed by couple number 2, married for 9 months, Oriana and Andrew Valdez. Then came couple number 3, married just 3.5 weeks, Myesha and James Riley. Finally, couple number 4, married 17 months, Kelly and Brian Sivas. And now, here is the star of the Newlywed game, Bob Newbanks. Bob stepped onto the stage with a wide smile, greeted by a wave of applause. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Newlywed game and a very special hello to our 4 newlywed couples over there. Nice to have you with us. Bob looked at the women and made a familiar request. And you know what? Ladies, it is time for you to go off to our soundproof area. While the ladies were leaving the stage, Bob turned his attention to the men. All right, while the ladies are leaving, I want to remind all of our husbands over here that I will be asking you some 5-point questions. You will be answering these questions as you predict your wife will answer the same question when she returns. Now, remember, if her answer matches your prediction, you get 5 points. And it is the couple with the most points at the end of the show that wins a fabulous second honeymoon. The stage was set, the audience was silent, and the husbands waited nervously. Gentlemen, here is your first 5-point question. You ready? Here we go. Gentlemen, for 5 points, how often will your wife say, you fantasize while making whoopee? Would it be all the time, some of the time, or none of the time? Brian Hunter Muller thought for a moment. I am gonna have to go with some of the time, Bob. Bob chuckled and asked if he wanted to share more, but Brian declined. No, I do not want to hear it later. James Riley was next. I would have to say some of the time. You fantasize some of the time? Bob asked. Yeah, about her, of course, James replied with a grin. Andrew Valdez and the second Brian both agreed with some of the time, each emphasizing that their wives were always the center of those thoughts. Your nose is gonna grow, you know that, Bob joked. The competition moved to the next question. Gentlemen, what will your wife say is the one thing you think she stuffs her face with much too often? And be specific. James was quick to answer. Ooh, I would have to say bread. She always eating bread. She likes biscuits. Andrew had a different perspective. I would not go with food. I would say the phone. It is always in her face. It is always on her mouth. Bob laughed at the image. She stuffs her face with the phone. Andrew nodded. The first Brian mentioned candy bars for Christy, and the second Brian mentioned potato chips for Kelly because of the salt. The last of the 5-point questions brought a bit of family tension. Gentlemen, how will your wife say you would complete this sentence? When it comes to my wife is family, I would rather spend an entire day having a root canal than a few hours with her blank. Andrew immediately thought of his wife as grandmother. She just do not like me, Bob. She hates me with a passion. Brian Hunter Muller chose Christy as brother, Rick, not because of hate, but because he saw him too often. The second Brian mentioned Grandma Boo Boo, a name earned after a family dog. James hesitatingly suggested his mother-in-law. Her mother is nice, but I do not know anything else to say. The show moved into a commercial break, featuring messages about Medicare Part C benefits and the importance of supporting veterans through the Wounded Warrior Project. When the program resumed, the ladies were back on stage. Okay, gentlemen, we have recorded your predictions on cards. Each time that your prediction matches your wife's answer, you get 5 points. The first question about fantasies yielded several matches. Christy, Oriana, and Kelly all said some of the time, matching their husbands perfectly. Myesha, however, said none of the time, much to James's surprise. Moving on to the food habits, the answers started to diverge. Oriana said donuts, but Andrew had predicted the phone. Myesha also said the phone, but James had guessed bread. Kelly said ice cream, though Brian had guessed potato chips. Christy said cereal, Disagreeing with Brian is guess of candy bars. It seems the husbands had much to learn. When the family question was posed to the wives, the honesty came out. Maisha suggested her sister Malika, but James had predicted her mother. Kelly said her brother Scott, while Brian had guessed Grandma Boo Boo. Christy correctly identified her brother Rick, earning points. Oriana also correctly identified her grandmother Celia, explaining that she and Andrew just did not get along. After another break, the game entered its next phase. Each question was now worth 10 points. Ladies, will your husband say that he has you more wrapped around his little finger or you have him more wrapped around your little finger? Maisha admitted he has me wrapped around his little finger, but only because she liked to let him think that way. Oriana, Christy, and Kelly all confidently claimed they had their husbands wrapped around their fingers. The next question concerned the home. Which room in your home will your husband say has more square inches? Oriana and Christy both guessed the living room, while Kelly said the bedroom and Maisha said the kitchen. Then, a fun question about friends was asked. Whenever I look at my husband is friend blank, I can't help thinking how his what would look on my husband. Christy mentioned Peter is hair. Kelly mentioned Tom is chest. Maisha mentioned Jonathan is mustache, and Oriana mentioned Danny is grey hair. Finally, the 25-point bonus question asked for the husband is least favorite vegetable. The answers ranged from asparagus to peas, carrots, and corn. As the show reached its climax, Bob revealed the prize. It is a fun-filled cruise. You will spend 1 week aboard a Costa cruise ship, Europe's leading cruise line. The points were tallied. Couple number 1 and couple number 2 were tied with 30 points. To break the tie, the couples had to rely on their pre-show predictions of their final scores. Brian and Christy had predicted 50 points, which was over their actual score of 30. Andrew and Oriana had predicted 42 points. Since they were closest to their actual score without being disqualified by the tie-breaking rules, they were declared the winners. Andrew and Oriana, you are newlywed bride winners, and you are off to a wonderful second honeymoon. Bob Newbanks smiled at the camera as the credits began to roll. That is all the time we have. Thanks to all of our couples, especially thanks to you. I am Bob Eubanks, and we will see you next time on the Newlywed Game. Bye-bye.